Welcome to episode 95 of the Nero Show. In today's episode,
we race the most equipment-optimised criterium I've ever seen in Sydney. We chat through some of the gear that's floating around.
Jesse offers me some tips on getting Aero. He thinks I'm a bit slow.
Chris has been side-by-side testing the new SRAM RED and Shimano's 12-speed Dura Ace. We have a preliminary chat around how they compare.
Epic post-ups, catching crabs, and DQs at the Olympics. We go through it.
All right, let's get into it.
So we did a crit on the weekend, Jesse.
Yep.
Club crit. And, well, when I say club crit, it's very high level. Very, very, very important, these things are. And you and I think we were both noticing this even on the start line.
Incredible scenes.
The level of optimization that is occurring at a local level of just general racing I don't want to say got out of control because obviously we're feeding it, but it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. I'm calling most optimized club race in New South Wales since the dawn of time. I'm calling it 100%. You had skin suits, you had Aero overshoes. There was 2 POC Pro Sonaires in A grade.
Not mine, I'd like to point out.
And neither of ours.
Yes.
So I was on the start line going, I got a bit of FOMO here. I should have rolled mine out maybe next week. So yeah, full almost time trial helmets. There wasn't a training wheel or training tire within 10 kilometers of Heffron Park. It was absolute scenes.
It's gone next level because, and I'm going to call you out for this because the day before I messaged you and Edwin and said, boys, I want to run some cameras at this race. And I was completely ghosted by these two. Complete silence. And I knew why. Because it wasn't anything to do with like, I don't want to do the footage. It's I don't want to put the bike camera on my bike. That could be slowing me down at the scene. And it's gone beyond that. So I still took the cameras to the race on the off chance that there would be a few guys at the start line willing to run a camera. People have gone and removed, you know how there's the little thing underneath the bike mount, sort of the GoPro holder that goes underneath that for a light.
The GoPro hook thing with the bolt goes through.
Everyone's just taken those off now. They're off. They're gone. So it's just mount and nothing. It's got to be clean surfaces front end of the bike. So, yeah, I was particularly, well, I'm not surprised anymore these days. But, yeah, I mean, I'm there with my Aero socks on. So I got nothing to say about it.
There was a couple of guys that had jersey bib shorts. That was kind of the bottom end. But they still had full race bikes, durace wheels, full setups. So I don't... You know, we did have the chat last week, a couple of weeks ago, about how people were saying it's getting elitist and getting quite expensive. Well, there you go. I mean, proved it. I mean, I'm not going to argue at this stage because, there was a lot of cash on that start line.
The only quick defense I will offer is there is a state championship race next weekend, and I did speak to a few people after this event, and they were sort of doing the whole. I wanted to do a test run for my equipment, which I actually do want to mention. Because I don't think people do this enough, that they have their race kit, or it might be the Aero helmet or the Aero socks or whatever it is, and they just get there on race day, the main race, and they put that gear on and realise, like Chris did last year, that their Aero socks fall down 5 minutes into the race and you haven't any idea why that's happened. So the idea of doing a little test event week before, I'm on board with that. But I did want to sit and ask you a little bit just about, so that's the first crit you have done on your new bike, and that particular crit, I mean, I put a couple of little videos on Instagram up about it. Every time I do, people comment on that road surface. That's not even, what is it?
Track
surface that Heffron Park is, and it's super unique. And I wanted to hit you on that because that's the first time you've ridden that bike on that course. Yep. What were the thoughts?
First race on the China bike. I won, by the way. First win on the China bike. It was... I mean, the clear thing is, as I've already said, is the tyre pressure. I mean, it totally smooths it out. The corners are a lot smoother. Not necessarily that I'm cornering faster, but you get less of the jitters through the corners because you get less of the feedback. It's It's even rough, not just on the straight sessions. Through the corners is actually quite rough. And obviously, the lower pressure, wider tires, it just smooths it out. Like, night and day. I've got the TCR behind me here. And then I dusted it off and put the wheels in to bring it over here. And on the way, I thought, you couldn't pay me to race that again at Heffron. I mean, I won't spend too much time on that, but it was really nice. I mean, yeah, that's a huge difference. Now, obviously, on the bike, I'm back on Shimano as well. It's the first time I've ever used the sprint shifters. For those of you that don't know what the sprint shifters are, on Shimano, there's these little buttons you can install with your electronic group set. They sit in the drops so that when you're in the drops, you can shift with your thumb. So I've got one on the right, one on the left, goes to a harder gear in the back and an easier gear in the back. And it means if you're in the drops racing, you can really easily shift without having to move your hands. And also then obviously when you're actual sprinting, obviously they're called sprint shifters. Again, you don't have to do that movement of the hand kind of off the drop to reach the buttons. It's like playing a video game with your thumbs. So blown away with sprint shifters. When Ben Carmen had them years ago, and I always thought, oh, they're quite nice, old teammate. Never really did anything about it. I should have done it years ago. They are incredible. Like, I'm blown away by them.
How did you find the wheels in the corners? Because I did notice you dropping the wheel a few times coming into some of the faster corners, whether you weren't quite sure with the wider tyres how much speed you can carry. It's like any time you've got new tyres and a new setup that you're a little bit maybe more cautious. Was that a fair call that you were being a little bit?
I think that's more the crank length. So I've got shorter cranks, and so I have to recalibrate what corners I can pedal through. So that's probably why I noticed you. What crank length do you run? You're
170. Well, we'll get onto that later.
Okay. Okay, we will. Right. So
I was 172.5 there.
Right. So I'm miles off because I mean, even you were pedaling. I was behind you going through some corners. You were pedaling, and I was still backing off. So I'm kind of miles off figuring that out. But that's that slow process of me just getting my head around to what speed am I still pedaling through. Obviously, given that you've got longer cranks and you're still pedaling, and I'm there backing off. I think part of that is me psyching myself out with the crank length. Maybe I'm just still getting used to the course. I've never been amazing at cornering. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely smoother. And then once I can get that dialed in, I can know what speed I can still pedal through. Unfortunately, the only way to recalibrate that is to strike a pedal, like, to be honest. So I'm going to have to take a few more risks with that, keep pedaling when I normally might get the urge to back off and try and find that. And once I get that dialed in, I think I'll be good to go.
Can I mention this? Because I took a leaf out of your book during the week and realised I actually have a back catalogue of rides and races on the same course. Now, doing this takes into account the fact that these are not on the same days. This is not the kind of comparison that I'm doing, all right? This is a good old-fashioned, they're going much faster in the Tour de France in 2024 than they were 30 years ago type thing. But I have been racing at that particular course since since 2015. And I've been racing in A grade there since 2017. So what I did is I went onto Strava and did a little bit of a deep dive into some of those races. Now, some of the races that we do there are scratch races and handicap races. So what I wanted to do is actually just use the scratch races, which because the Tuesday night ones are sort of different entities. So just the scratch races. So back in 2017, 18 and 19, I took those three years and I raced 24 times at Heffron over those 3 years on the Saturday afternoon, which was the sort of classic kind of race time. And since then, so that was what I would regard as 2017, 2018, 2019. So that was Bianchi Specialismas, so Ridley Fast Noah Fast, Bianchi Specialisma, Bianchi Ultra XR4, and there was probably a Devel rim brake in there towards the end of it. Okay? So taking that bunch, and then since then 2 years of disc brake race. The COVID stuff's a bit out of sync because of what happened with the racing at that time. You may remember basically all the international races were stuck in Australia for an entire season, and we just had pelotons of 40 with mostly UCI Continental races doing them. So I took the 2020 out, even though we were actually on rim brake at the time, and then just went back to the disc brake ones. So in the disc brake scenarios, we've got the Factor, the Aero, and the S5, essentially at Heffron. Those 2.5 years of 17 races. So not quite as many, but getting up there around that. So the average speeds then in what I will term the rim brake era was 42.7 kilometers an hour at Heffron. And in the disc brake era was 43.7 kilometers an hour. Now, they aren't really high speeds, which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, because of, well, if anyone, I'll flick some B-roll up of this course, you will see why these are not high speeds. It's a pretty horrendous course. But that was exactly a kilometre an hour difference.
For reference, on a Tuesday night when you have 30 guys in a massive pace line, absolutely belting along, you'll do 46 is about as fast as you'll go. And like if that was hot mix, you'd be going 50, 51. So that's that in terms of that speed there. Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to kind of use, I had more of a database of the scratch racing, specifically in the disc brake era. So I wanted to kind of use that. So I don't know. I thought that was actually relevant, that it was a kilometre an hour difference. Now the fastest race was on the disc brake size was 45.1 kilometres an hour, and the fastest in the rim brake era was 44.1 kilometres an hour. So again, a kilometre an hour difference generally between the two. I will say this is quite concerning. My power is basically the same, pretty much 300 normalized. There's the odd 310, there's the odd 290, but that's basically me, Chris Miller, at Heffron Park for the best part of a decade. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of backed up a little bit what I thought. Anecdotally, I would say that the races feel faster, but they batter you less. But that's just purely anecdotal.
I wouldn't say it's just the disc. I mean, the disc brakes is obviously one of them, but it's also the lack of training wheels. Just the optimization overall is top to tail is different.
Sorry, I should have stressed that. That was not me trying to compare. Oh, look, disc brakes are faster. That's me saying that this is club racing now compared to club racing then, with everything I just said about people not putting their friggin' a camera mount on because it holds them back too much. Like that's the level that it's got to. And I had a look at some of the B grade races that I was doing back in 2015, 2016. Like I would be so dropped from B grade now at that average speed that I was in the current crop of B grade riders. It's dramatic. Actually, it's more dramatic the further down you go. Like I had a few 39, 38 kilometre an hour races in B grade back then, whereas that's basically C grade this stage.
Yeah. It's all bumped up. I did note one thing as well I wanted to chat about when we're doing the race. It's Chris Miller's aero position. I know you don't want to. I know you don't want to go into it. I do. All right, I got to bring this up. We're talking about optimization because I'm riding behind you during the race. You generally got stuck with arguably the worst turn to have to do at Heffron, which is coming onto the straight and then sort of the first half of the straight. And I was behind you in the rotation. So it was a 4-man break. I was behind you in the rotation as we were moving up. And I just noted as we were going down the straight, I felt, because I'm a taller rider, so generally I can sort of feel how aero everyone is in terms of how low they're getting. And I felt like a lot of the time coming down the straight, I was right tucked in behind you in your draft, whereas usually a shorter rider that's really tucked in, I'm kind of going, oh, where's the hell's this sit? It's all, I'm not getting much. I'm kind of looking, and then your forearms went parallel to the ground. Can we please bring up some evidence, Chris Miller? I've got photo 1 here. Photographers on side. Thank you to photographers at the race. This is the 4-man break that we were in that stayed away to the end. You got Mick Coopert on the front there. That's the guy that did your bike fit. Why have I brought up this piece of evidence is us two side by side. Now, I know what you're going to say. Angles, you got different gradients, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, so you've got Chris Miller on the Cervelo S5, bend in the elbows. I'd say slight bend, not full aero position. Given you are second wheel, I'm not expecting the full-on tuck, but this is only first piece of evidence I'm presenting. Me behind you. Now, I'm a fair bit taller, but if you just looked at the shape we're cutting in the air, the silhouette, with the saddle to bar drop that I've got, with probably a similar bend to you in the elbow, we're kind of not far off in terms of the shape we're cutting through the air. And just for future reference, I want you to look at Mick at the front. Now, he doesn't have a super aggressive setup because there's different paths you can get to an aero position. He has the first approach, which is less aggressive setup, but you just ride it like an absolute mad dog, which is what he's done. So you can see his handlebar height is pretty high, but his elbows are so bent that his forearms are negative. Like they're pointing upwards like a modern time trial setup. So that's an example of modern setup ridden really aggressively.
I've got to admit, this is a little bit damning, Jesse. Yeah, you're right. I could come up with some. I've got a theory as to what's going on.
You're
here.
Don't pull out. There's a parallax with the light refraction.
Yeah. Just quick mention to Mick there running the Aero helmet and a saddle bag. Just massive flex.
No, I think he's probably wind tunnel tested that. I think it's a fairing.
He was saying that actually, that it was a fairing. It is speeding him up, and I partially believe him. Yeah, this is somewhat damning. Okay, what's my defense to this? Do you want me to defend this yet?
No. Let me present a few more photos because there's plenty here. There's plenty to go through. We're going to go to photo 2. I just thought I looked really good in this photo, so I just wanted to bring it up. So this is me going down the straight on the front. And so that's what I'm doing on the front to try and get down. So elbows, the forearm's not quite parallel, but elbow, quite a good bend in the elbow, head's quite down. Kind of, you can see my neck's kind of shrugged in, and that's on a pretty aggressive setup. So
you've just attacked.
Yep.
That's what this is. This isn't rolling turns. This is you attacked me at the top of the straight. Well, me, because I was on the front, and I've just bridged across to you. If you close in on our faces, you can see we're absolutely snot coming everywhere. So
I thought I'd sailed free there, by the way. You've done well to close that gap. That was a proper stinger. Anyway, back to
but just yes, I mean that is my position there is in the drops because I essentially sprinted to get to those wheels, and I'm now in the
sucking in
everything.
The big ones. Photo 3. This is where it gets interesting because this is you on the next 2 photos are going to be you on the front. This is kind of the position you're riding. Now, given as well, just remembering in the rotation, I was generally behind you, so I could see what position you're riding in. This is a pretty classic case. So, okay, slight bend in the elbow. I'm kind of calling that. That's probably like a general road position. That's, with the sort of setup you got, you can see me behind you. Again, the angles and that sort of thing, but, you're cutting a pretty big shape in the air there. That's you on the front. So that's what I'm putting there. Photo 4. Again, similar. So this is Mick on the right there. He's rolled off for his turn. This is Chris coming forward. And again, that's the position. It's sort of that slight bend in the elbow, but really, if you had to rate how aero is Chris Miller on the front out of 10, you're probably halfway there, I'd say. Maybe
it's okay. This is interesting. So, what's my defense here?
Well, I just think you're giving away a lot of watts.
Yeah. There is that. But look, what I will say is this: that I did make a conscious decision a while ago that I prioritized basically power over, you could argue aerodynamics, well, power over comfort would be what I would probably say. And with that in mind, I used to run a much smaller size bike. We've talked about this before. I run a larger size bike now, and I've actually got 10 mil spacers under that. So Mick, as you mentioned, Mick's a bike fitter here in Sydney. He set me up on the S5 originally. He's then set me up on the TCR. And when I had the TCR set up, it was a bit taller at the front. And I remember saying that to him. And he said, oh, you should put 10 mil spacer under the S5, see how it feels. And I did that, and only kind of recently. And I will say it has anecdotally felt very good. I haven't seen many pictures of myself riding it. And yeah, it's interesting because I think I'm still riding my bike like I think I'm in an aerodynamic position or a really aggressive position. Whereas times have changed. I'm running a size bigger bike with more spaces. So the position that I just would have adopted, which is in the hoods, a little bit of bent elbows, kind of sort of tucking my head a little bit, isn't actually as aerodynamic as it used to be. Now, I'm putting out more power, but potentially not going any faster.
Exactly. So let's go photo 5. This is Mick on the front here. Now, this is the example I'm giving where, now he's done your bike fit, so he's probably he's done your fit on the trainer with the biomechanics, and yeah, it's probably sound, but that's not how you. Well, that's not how I think the position should be when you're actually on the front. And so what he does is he doesn't have that aggressive a setup, but you can see what he's doing with his wrists. So the photo that I sent, photo 5, and then you press the arrow, go to the next one, you can see. So the wrists are in, the shoulders are coming in narrow. He's getting all tucked in. So it's all well and good to have the biomechanically sound setup if you ride like Mick Cooper. Whereas I feel like he's given you the similar setup and then you haven't gotten the memo to get yourself tucked in. So both work. It doesn't mean you have to set your bike up like mine, go and change everything. It's just, getting adapted to that position. Did you want to mention the power thing?
Yeah, the reason that I said that I prioritize power is I looked at a lot of this stuff and found that when I'm racing guys like you, specifically in crits like this, I basically have to do the same power as you. So coming down the straight, pulling a turn, I basically have to do 420, 450 watts down the straight, pulling turns with you to kind of match it with you. And that's probably not far off what you're doing. Now, okay, you could argue I'm probably not doing that in the most aerodynamic, and I'll take that on board, definitely. But I still think that having prioritized power is giving me more of an opportunity to be a part of these races than I was when I was on more aerodynamic, less power setups.
I get you. I think you could be doing 40 feet. Remember, you're going down the straight, you're going 47 to 50 kilometers an hour. I honestly think you could be doing 50 watts less with an optimized position. Now, obviously, you're going to have to train to get comfortable at there, because if you try and do that now, you'll probably get 20 minutes in and probably get dropped because you're just totally muscularly spent. So that'll take some time. But I think that feeling of being strong is actually holding you back because it means you're not optimizing a position. And again, it's only the time when you're on the straight. So like the 4-man break. Unfortunately, you got stitched up with the turns on the straight, which is the most aerodynamically difficult one to do, first half of the straight. So maybe you tuck in there, but it's only for about 30 seconds. Then you roll off, coming back into the rotation. Yeah, sit up, relax, all good. That's fine. Third rider in line, sure. Okay, you're still in the draft, still sitting up. That's all good. Second in line, that's where you'd probably start to get back in the drops or tuck back in if you're staying on the hoods, because you can start to feel the wind. And then as soon as the person in front of you swings off, it should be like a light bulb switch. Like you actively should change position. So person swings off, bang, forearms in, heads down, and really the power you're doing isn't that important because you're really just fighting the aero drag. But the reason why I'm saying it is because if you can over time get accustomed to that position, let's say you do a 30-second turn each lap, and we do 15 laps. That's minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes of time where you could be doing, let's say 30 watts less. And that just means when I then launch an attack to try and split things up, you've spent way less energy. You've just got more power available to then follow with the higher power surges because every time you've been on the front, you've been tucked in more. And I just think it'll just make you way more effective in the actual race.
So what do you think I should do then? Should I mean, given that this is my sort of fastest bike setup, maybe I can lose that 10 mil spacer. I've got no issue trying to do that because I rode that at Peaks and stuff like that in Grafton. But what do you think I should be concentrating on then when I am rolling a turn? Should it be getting those elbows down perpendicular, like at 90 degrees? Is that my game plan, do you reckon?
Yeah. With your setup, you're going to need parallel forearms. So that would be the first thing. You also, you have pretty broad, muscular shoulders. So I think the shrugging, you're going to need to do some form of shrug, kind of like in Photo 5, like Mick does. You can see he's doing a shrug. So I think the shrug is going to have to come into play and getting the head down, all three. And doing the shrug also, it kind of starts at the hands, like hands roll in, wrists roll in, forearms roll in, and then that kind of pulls everything in. But you're going to have to,
one of Mick on the front's a good photo actually for explaining that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you look at if you didn't look at his upper body, so I got my hand covering and just going to his hands, that could be someone going up a climb. But then you move and you're like, oh, no, it's like in a time trial position. So yeah, no, I wouldn't even adjust anything on your bike. I mean, I would just make it a matter of holding it as opposed to forcing yourself down in there. I mean, I have the opposite approach. I'm taller, so I kind of have to do it. I just run as aggressive a setup as possible, so I don't, even without thinking about it, it's already fairly optimized. But I still do think about it when I pull my turns.
Speaking of optimized, can we just quickly note, see my little camera there? You on that photo?
Yeah,
that's got to be the most aerodynamic.
It's a nice.
That's pretty good, actually.
Setup.
I reckon that gave me 39 minutes.
Oh, what happened to the under the handlebar footage is crap.
It's
worthless.
You've got to, what did I say last week? You've got to know what you're shooting. So when you're shooting a crit, it's got to be under the handlebars because you can't run a chest mount because it's just crunches too much. There's no field of view. The other question I wanted to ask you was, so if you are in a breakaway and you're rolling on turns, how do you like to approach the finishing your turn and getting back in line? So do you do the just completely stop pedaling, lose heaps of momentum, but get a real break followed by almost a sprint to get back up and into the rotation? Or do you go for the slow death of swing off, but maintain some power, keep going, you're still out there, eventually swing in? How do you like to approach it?
I am not a sprinter. I like to slow burn that sucker. Swing off, hold the power. I can still kind of recover at 280, 300 while everyone slowly comes past. And that means I just don't have to do that big surge to get onto the wheel. Toby Orchard, stop pedaling, 1,500 watts, and he's back in line without breaking a sweat. So depends on your physiology. I like to keep the speed up. I like that power graph to be nice and smooth. It's smooth.
Also, I actually do really like my bike position. I mean, it really does look like a classic road position. The problem is I'm riding a crit. I get that.
The problem is you're not just riding a crit. The problem is you're riding a flat criterium against 3 other riders that have at least 8 kilos on you, who are also all optimized, and you're trying to match us 1 for 1 in your climbing position on the flat road. Yeah.
You know what the problem here? The problem here is there's not enough hazing at a race anymore. Like the days of people being shouted at for their position on a boat. Everyone's too nice to each other now. Like that's the issue. Like, people just haven't.
What you needed was
abuse.
Get your effing back down. Yeah. You're going 50k an hour,
100%.
Not climbing the Stelvio.
Yeah. Everyone's too nice. Absolutely, everyone's too nice.
If we go to photo 5,
Jesus, how much evidence is there?
If we go to photo 5, and
which one's that? Is that the one of me?
Actually, no. This doesn't matter. I was just talking. It doesn't matter. No,
it does matter. I want to hear.
It's not. It was. So, well, it's quite hard to get to because you got to go to photo 5 and press the right arrow 1, 2, 3, 2 times. I think you need an Aero bottle. Look at that. Is that an Alpecin? That's an Alpecin de Koenig bottle you got there, the Elite Fly. Look at that beautiful Aero-shaped Cervelo S5 down tube and that big bottle. Then zoom in back to coil. Have a look at, see? You know, there's watts there. There's 2 watts there.
That's true, actually. That's quite noticeable. What do you think of Edwin's position? So I'll send you this picture. He's there trying to bridge across to us. Because he's basically the same height, a little bit heavier than me, but same size bike.
Edwin...
Is that what I should be going for?
I think he could pull his elbows in. But the back angle, Edwin is notoriously good in his aero position. He does the whole race rocked over. He's one of the guys that I sit behind and I go, oh, I'm not getting much here. So yes, I think I'd give him a rating. I'd give him an A minus. If he could tuck his head down and pull his elbows in, he'd be.
So what's he doing there? Is he not looking where he's going?
I think he's just fully attacked and he's probably at max heart rate and we're probably just going over the little bump.
So when you are tucking your head, you're essentially not looking where you're going.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. Well, no, you can do it. It's just you have to practice it and have a strong neck. Like you're tucking your head and then you turn it up so you
that's
can
the
still
turtle
look up
thing
the road.
they talk about, is it?
Yeah, the turtle thing.
Okay.
But look at the next photo. So the photo you sent, press a long one, and that's the side. That's the side shot there. So that's pretty tidy. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's damning.
All like if you were going to say what should he do to reduce his frontal area, it's get that whole head in line with his body. Easier said than done.
How have you found the shorter cranks then in the aero position? Is that something, because that's all one of the positives supposedly is this ability to maintain a more aero position because of the hip angle. Not noticeable, or
I certainly feel more comfortable. So the feeling I used to get, let's say I was doing like a 60-minute effort, fairly aero position, is just you go halfway through and you don't, not necessarily back pain, but you just kind of feel like someone's kind of prodding you here, prodding you there. There's a little ache and you kind of feel like stretching. The point at which I get to that sort of discomfort and pain is just pushed way out. So that's really nice. So basically, yeah, essentially it feels like I'm riding a slightly less aggressive position, even though I'm not, which is good, which is nice. I don't feel less. My power's still good. I haven't lost any power.
It's disgusting. Not happy.
It makes you go like that conspiracy theory around like, well, why did everyone set on 175 if you're on an extra large, 172s if you're on a 50? Like, I reckon someone's cooked it. So have you spoken to anyone that's run shorter cranks and goes, oh, I just wish I could go back to 175?
I have. Really? Yes, I have. Well, okay, for starters, we should get Mick on. Mick went to 165s, didn't like it. Actually had this exact conversation with him on the ride back. He's gone back to 170s. Actually, one of the reasons was particularly at Heffron. He felt that he lost a bit of leverage in and out of corners. was something. Vegan, another one. He went real short. It's come back up, and they're the only two I can think of.
Okay.
Everyone else, yes. Everyone's part of
Kool-Aid
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Yeah. Now, quick word from today's show partner, Bike Exchange. Bike Exchange is the premier online marketplace for connecting bike shops and customers. How it works is bike shops list their bikes on the website where customers can buy them either shipped or for local pickup. Now, they've just launched a new site, and their latest update includes amazing features to enhance your shopping experience. They've introduced an AI-powered search feature to make you find the perfect bike. I don't have an AI search feature. In fact, I don't need an AI search feature. I have a Jesse Coyle search feature. What have you discovered here?
I'm going to go budget this week. You're a budget rider, you're getting into it. Sub $2,000, what can you get? Stand out here. Giant TCR Advance 2, rim brake model. I know we're moving to disc brakes. We like it. There is still a place because this bike, I'm thinking of people that has their name written on it. So what is it? It is the 105 model 11-speed rim brake, $1,500 for the complete bike. And it's not just one random size and it's secondhand. This is brand new in size 52, 55, 58, and 60. Ship domestically in the US. It's the 2021 model, but you're getting 40% off the retail price. And you're a beginner. You don't live anywhere with heaps of descending. You got some nice smooth roads. Great option. Sub $2,000. I like the look of that giant TCR.
Now, Bike Exchange have got a specific landing page for us, bikeexchange.com/Nero. There you'll see a special list of bikes that have been groomed specifically for what we actually like. Now, unfortunately, at this stage, they haven't listed their times around Centennial Park. I do reckon that is a feature that will be coming very, very soon, given some of the feedback last week. But head out, guys. This is the new website. Just reminding you that they have actually launched this new website, Bike Exchange. Check out bikeexchange.com/Nero for that site. And thank you very much to Bike Exchange for supporting today's episode. So in those pictures, people probably noticed I don't have a one by on my bike.
Whoa.
I have a Shimano Groupset on there.
Yeah. I don't understand. We were sold the dream. It came off the Peaks Challenge. Then it was put back on. And now it's not just I'm going off one by back on Shimano.
The actual reason I've done it, one is a performance thing. The other is relevant to nobody else, but it's the main reason that I've done it. And when that's actually the thing that I want to talk about first is I don't think there's been some really good chat about the difference between the new SRAM Red and the current top-end Dura Ace group set. Generally, I think there's a lot of this is different, that's different, but there's not a lot of, okay, let's sit down and actually talk about the differences purely performance-based over a long period of time using, because it's like, who else has got friggin' the new SRAM Red and new Dura Ace and is riding and racing it equally? I kind of thought that was a missed opportunity if I didn't try and do that. So that was the main reason.
So because the one on your S5 was the old SRAM. The new one's on the TCR.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And I basically ride them 50-50. And I go from one to the other and I write little notes down all the time about differences that I pick up between them because there is differences. And I think it goes beyond just the brakes are much nicer on red now. So I do want to actually get into that. The only performance difference that I actually did was, so it was a 170, there's a 170 mil crank on the SRAM TCR. Had 172.5s on the Cervelo 1x. And I had that Shimano one with the SRM power meter, which you can chain the crank length on. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put the 170 crank lengths on both. And a massive shout to Edwin for actually strip and rebuilding that for me. But that was essentially the cheapest way for me to do it because I'm not going to buy another crank because you'd have to buy the full power crank if you did that on the SRAM one. That's my 1x Groupset. I own that, so I didn't want to have to buy another one. And so, yeah, I just wanted 170 on both. You sort of semi-talked me into kind of the chain rings, the crank length difference.
I would have said you wouldn't even notice a difference between 170 and 1725s.
You probably don't, but if you are literally riding one bike and the other bike day to day, yeah, you probably don't notice a difference, but I want to have a really equal experience across the two of them. And yes, you can argue I'm not running the full Shimano experience because I'm not running a power meter, but we've said enough about we everyone know where that stands at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the rationale behind it. And yeah, I'm happy with it.
I don't want to get you to have I want you to spend more time and then we'll have a full chat. How long have you been back? No, so you've had the SRAM RED for a while. How long have you been, but you're still using, how long have you been back on 12-speed Durace?
3 weeks.
Only 3 weeks. Okay.
I got thoughts. Or is it too soon? You're not going to let me?
No, okay. Well, what's, can we start with brakes?
Yeah.
Okay.
The SRAM is legitimately is good. Yep. I would even argue better. I mean, from what's the holy grail of braking? Is it this one-fingered thing? Yes. Yes. It definitely, from that perspective, it definitely is at least as good. Now, the caveat to that is with the reach adjust that I pull mine in a little bit. Once you use the reach adjust on both of them, the actual evenness and the modulation is marginally better on the Shimano setup. Just where it starts to grab and the evenness across the entire pull when you have the reach adjust in is marginally better on the Shimano. But my takeaway from 3 weeks of this is that it's like we're really picking nits. If there's no but when it comes to either of those group sets in the braking scheme of things. Can I go a little bit further? Yeah. Right, cool. Are we calling the shift up the block when we shift?
I just go shift to a harder gear, shift to an easier gear. Yeah. Up, shift down. Well, you're going down the cassette, you're going down the range. Ugh.
Under load, I'm not talking about, I'm doing 500 watts up a really steep hill. I'm going to try a gear shift load. I'm talking about prolonged load. For example, the hour effort type thing where you're 20, 30, 40 minutes in and you're fatigued in your legs and you're making that shift to an easier gear at the rear cassette. And you're doing that because you want to be let off, right? You're finding an easier gear because you're finding that current gear too heavy. The consistent smoothness of that Shimano Dura Ace shift to an easier gear is incredible. It's almost as though you don't feel, it's just like your cadence changes and you don't feel the gear shift. That's not the case on SRAM. That shift, you feel the let off of the chain of is it the chain? No, what are we calling that? The teeth at the back, and it grab onto the next of the easier teeth. You feel that in your legs under fatigue. Now, again, we're picking, whatever, but that's why I wanted to do this. Is there's a repercussion for that in your pedaling with that shift, definitely. Now the other shift, the shift to a harder gear, that's down to personal preference. I firmly believe that SRAM shift, which is a more cha-chunk, that is no better, no worse than Shimano, but the Shimano one is faster.
Mm-hmm. Do
you like I'm in the gear, or do you like the machine gun? That's up to you. Front chainring.
Technically, Shimano is superior for the rear shift.
Definitely.
Okay,
definitely. That smoothness shift to the point that I'd forgotten this, but there were a few moments on the weekend in that crit where I'd shift gears. And I'd actually have to double check whether I'd shifted because I wasn't sure. I was waiting for that thunk. And anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You almost think it's misshifted. Because it's so smooth you didn't feel it change. Yeah.
Third thing. I've talked about this shift in the past. This is my my Alpe d'Huez of front derailleur shifting tests. Bellevue Hill VO2 efforts, 3.5 minute effort. It's basically small ring all the way to the last 40 seconds, where you've got to chuck it in the big ring for the last 40 seconds and hold VO2 power to the end. It's the holy grail of front derailleur shifts. And it's not close. That shift, when you are 2.5, 3 minutes into a VO2 effort, you can't time the shift. You know how, with a mechanical group set, we all grew up with that. You timed that front derailleur shift to almost put it on to the chainring with that up pedal stroke. You can't do that when you're riding VO2 and you're about to kick in. You're just mashing. It's a pure mash shift. And the consistency and speed and just outrageous efficiency of that Shimano front derailleur shift is superior. And I would say that the actual ratio shift, so that I'm going from a 40 to a 54, is a more even shift on the legs than the 52. God, I should remember. I'll insert it. I should know what the small chainring is that you're coming from in the SRAM one, but it's less of a block on your legs in that. So that's, to be honest, that shift is the only time so far I've gone, there is actually a difference. Now, what that's worth to you is a whole other kettle of things, but yeah, that's, as I said, my holy grail of front derailleur shifts. Everywhere else, much of a muchness.
Battery life?
Battery life's not. Well, obviously it's better on the Shimano, but the livability and versatility of SRAM is still a real positive. That here are my batteries, there they are, charge them. Oh, I'm traveling, there's no cables. I just remove my derailleur. That's it. Put it back on. Like, that's a thing. That's a I was thinking to myself, like, if we go to do Amy's, what bike will I ride? Well, we've got to fly. The TCR, I just have to take the derailleur off and that's it, done. Whereas, if I've got the other one, I do have a wire in there, then the battery's it is hidden as well, or something happens there. Maybe there's more issues that could occur. So, that sort of stuff is, that's been talked about. I'm not adding value to that part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm ever in an aero position, according to you now, but I have definitely found that the positioning of the bonus buttons on the SRAM hoods, where they've got them on the side, is actually a more natural position to use them rather than on the top, because your thumb just tends to sit essentially on the sides, whereas to use that the D-fly button on the Shimano, you actually do have to move your thumbs up into
I find them quite hard to press. I got the new 12 speed with gloves. I'm kind of, where the hell's that button?
Yep.
Even though it just should be on the top.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So that was definitely a nod to the positioning of the SRAM ones being superior, without a doubt.
What one's the SRAM's lighter, isn't it? We know that confirmed. I swear in the press release that was the lightest disc brake.
Yeah,
Probably
was it? Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is lighter.
All right, pick one right now.
No. I don't want to.
You have. What if you have to? What if you had to?
I don't want to yet. It's not why I've done this yet.
No?
I'm not doing that after 3 weeks.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Subscribe now to find out. Yeah. No, I will. I will do that for sure. SRAM released a gravel group set, Jesse.
I guess. Do we have to talk about? We're a road show.
Right, that's a bloody good point.
Like, it's. Are people expecting us to give thoughts on it? Personally, I don't care. I wasn't gonna talk about it.
I would say that.
Is it like if they released a new mountain bike, we're not going to be on here reviewing the new S-Works stump jumper. Is that still a model?
I thought I'd be more interested than I was. Okay. And a bit of that's just because of what you said. I think a lot, it's just, here we go again. There definitely is a feeling of that. And this is coming from someone who's like, I'm riding gravel,
You ride,
Jesse.
you do gravel. You're in.
I'm a national silver medalist. There you go. I could say that now. One of my main goals this year will be a gravel race down in Warrnambool.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, whatever. It's a gravel group. So I suppose my take was going to be potentially from the road side of it, because we alluded to this back in January where I was trying to sell you on riding a one-by group set on the road in hilly conditions, and we kind of back and forthed about it, and I was saying, look, what you could do is you could put a gravel derailleur on with a gravel chain, with a gravel cassette, and all of a sudden you would have this sort of multi-purposey bike. Fast forward a couple of months, that's basically what SRAM do. They create a derailleur with a 1046 rear cassette. Great, that is backwards compatible and works across. So I could put this on my giant TCR with the Explorer rear derailleur with a 1046 rear cassette, and I'd have to get a one by, but you know what I mean. Like,
you don't even run one by anymore.
But just
Okay.
play along with me, all right? Jesus Christ! Just for argument's sake, all right? You could have done that. So that's a thing. But the only problem is that, well, this is an almost 7,000 Australian dollar group set for a gravel group set that you're going to trash in the mud. And those parts that I just talked about, so you're looking at almost 1,000 Australian dollars for the cassette. You're looking at $1,200 for the rear derailleur. You probably need a chain as well. So you're looking at around 2,500 Australian dollars for your road climbing setup. I mean, look, I've tried to break it down and was like, okay, what gearing ratio would that give you? So if you did run a 50 front chainring and this 1046 on your road bike, you're basically getting like a 5236 with an 1134. You're actually getting a little bit more than that. So you are getting a good range, but again, you're kind of operating in the weeds. And the actual absolute deal breaker to all of this, and potentially I shouldn't have even bothered talking about this in the first place, is because this all requires a UDH, which is the universal derailleur thingy that they jump up and down on the SRAM videos to show how strong it is. Awesome, great, but there's no road bikes that have that. So this entire argument is essentially a waste of time. Your thoughts, Jessica?
I just don't care. I don't care. They've gone up a speed. There we go. That's the most interesting thing.
I forgot about that, yeah.
It's you've got 13 gears at the back. Good, because you've got a gigantic cassette where your cadence is going to change about 15 RPM every time you shift the derailleur. So there's an extra one in there for you. That's easy to, if you've got one by. Actually, even not if you, if you've got run by, you got a bigger range cassette, one extra gear. Okay, and we're going to get 13 speed on the road then, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't ride off-road. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. What about the review stuff? Does that interest you at all?
So,
just generally.
So what's the takes here?
Okay, yeah, good. So, yeah, everyone's there. They're all there. That's great. It works. That's fantastic. A few people obviously pointed out the fact that this costs $6,500 Australian dollars for a gravel group set, but it is what it is. But these things that we see on the embargo launches are essentially first looks. They're spec reads with maybe a couple of weeks of riding in them. Fantastic. Well done. I kind of thought this was interesting. So Dave Rome, who is one of the tech people at Escape Collective, sends an email out to the Escape Collective members during the week. It kind of aimed to lift the curtain on how they do reviews, which was kind of useful, I thought. Couple of quotes from it. Writing the stuff is rarely where most of the hours are spent. Rather, things like taking photos before and after the assembly add hours. Taking notes while building up the bike is more time spent. Speaking with the brand to get their point of view on my sometimes pessimistic questions is a few more hours. When it's all said and done, creating the finished product you see on the homepage typically takes no longer than 60 working hours. In some professional industries, the amount of work would come to with a $50,000 invoice. And while cycling media isn't a law of strategic consulting, it still needs to be more than charity. Essentially saying that they put this time into reviewing a product that financially doesn't really have any viable way of making sense, which kind of made me think a little bit about your L2 sort of feedback, where you ride the thing really hard and then sit down and talk for an hour about your experience riding it, and how reviews of mainstream products when they're actually launched or around this time, we're just never going to get something like that for the potential reason of it just doesn't make sense for anyone to do it.
But the last sentence here that they've put in, spending more than a week of work to create a single product review comes with both a financial and opportunity cost. And when the brand isn't buying advertising in return, that expense becomes a very simple equation of how it benefits our members. But so are they going to be reviewing? So they've done it. So Escape Collective would have done the first look, which is not a review because they've admitted they have hardly any time to actually ride it. So is there like long-term reviews? Like,
yeah,
but I mean, what?
I mean, it's no. I think that's undersells actually what their first look content was, which was a really detailed breakdown of the group set itself in terms of, yes, the specs of it, but initial thoughts on the performance of it, how it interacts with the other elements of the group set, how it builds. That obviously plays a big role in the stuff that Dave does, is how it actually builds up, the technical aspects of that. But you're right, and this is kind of what I wanted to get into, is that the whole problem with these bits of content is that it's not worth anyone's time to follow it up.
Isn't it more important to be out riding it? Like what? Like this must be. What's the word count on this? It's gigantic. Like this would have taken even to do this in a week is impressive, but
this is the problem.
But it's but that's not the value is in the review, which requires hard testing. So whatever, it's their business. Yeah, I mean, this
is not. I don't want this. This isn't commenting on particularly on that content. Like that's valuable, I'm sure, for them. Whatever. But my point is more just from what's actually valuable for a broad list of people when it comes to these first launch things. I'm a bit like you. I don't know how this works, but I want to see the 20-hour week on the bike on this group set, and then half this article, or maybe not an article.
No. Well, why are they even doing it? This is stuff SRAM should be doing, because this is the inside of the hood. This is how we redesigned the piston formation. This is how all the transmission of e mountain bikes this is, again, they can do whatever they want. This is my thing. If I cared about the new SRAM Red Explorer Axis, I would literally skip through 3/4 of this article because this is basically could have just come from SRAM. Like, SRAM should be doing that. That's their job to convey what this group set is, how it was built, why it's better. What we want to know is, if it's a first look, just do a quick key points thing. But we want to review. We want to how it rides, what all that sort of stuff is. And I understand. Dave Rome's article is kind of going, it's a big time suck, but.
But I mean, we don't know this comes down to what the audience is. That their audience probably wants this. They want the 80 pages of what's underneath the hoods. And I don't disagree with you. I think that's potentially the content that SRAM should be doing. But my issue still is that getting the first look stuff, or this content that goes out on embargo date, right? Where's the person doing 20 hours a week on it and giving us more than just, I've gone out and it shifts nicely. That's good. I'm going to try it under load. Where is the person who's really bashing this across a multitude of different terrains for an extended period of time and giving us their thoughts on it? It doesn't. I don't know. I just find
this would be a conversation.
I
mean, this is a conversation we'd have to have with. Well, we're talking about the Escape Collective, in this example. This is where you have to chat with them of how many people want this. To be honest, I think it's got to be a niche group that are sitting there going, "Oh, what's the percentage thing?" Surely there's 100 times more people that are more interested in an actual, just what it's actually like if you're going to go and buy it. But I'm not an editor of a online cycling publication.
I think he referenced this, that he said something like that group sets are different in the way that they mature online because they will tend to be, people will come back to these months, years down the line to see what their thoughts were at the time. So I get then that something like this exists for that audience who's looking at this in 12 months' time. Yeah, it still doesn't kind of answer the question to me of the biggest part of this is, well, how does this actually perform over time on a bike? And I just don't think it's – I think it's just too much of an easy out to not have given this to someone independent to actually put this through rigors of testing that is viable to go online at the embargo date. And I'm not talking about their list of fully supported SRAM athletes who get this and will post it on their new bike the day this goes up and go, wow, 13's great or something in depth like that. I'm not talking about that. All right, so Remco won the road race.
Mm-hmm. Fuck, that's a stitch up for his team.
Yeah.
He's going to bankrupt them. 2 Olympic gold medals. They're probably, what do you reckon? 150,000 euro?
Well, Lefebvre's
Olympic gold bonus?
Yeah, he's already come out. He's shopping him around. He's just like, I can't afford this guy going forward. Can we please do something about it? I don't know, maybe Specialized will come to the party. I mean, Specialized should come to the party big time. And
it's not that valuable for them. They can't even post about it.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
It's part of the Olympic rules where at least until after the Olympics is finished, you can't post. You can't promote your athlete winning. So you go on Specialized Instagram.
I forgot about that.
You wouldn't even know he won. So he's standing on the front of the Eiffel Tower with the S-Works SL8. Can't post it.
Is it the greatest post up in cycling history? Is it the greatest victory celebration? I look, it's got to be up there. I mean, it's the only
zoom out with the yeah. I mean, yep.
The only problem is I haven't seen a photo of the full Eiffel Tower. It's always cropped.
Yeah.
So they haven't actually fully, because I think that was a downhill. Yeah.
It was
So-
all because he was so small relative to the whole Eiffel Tower, and it took the camera slightly too long. Someone needs to edit it and kind of like speed ramp the zoom out,
Oh, I like that.
and then get the shot. Yeah,
Thankfully, being that far out meant you didn't see the Belgian kit. So I do want to have a quick national team kit chat. Just generally, Jesse, I'm continually disappointed by national team kits. I've said this a lot in the World Champs, but I thought with the Olympics, we might have a bit more going on, but just generally really disappointing, specifically from the countries that I expect more from. So Belgium, number one. Belgium's normally pretty bad, actually. Sorry, Belgium.
yeah, but at least it's iconic.
That wasn't iconic. It was just this like.
No, this year it wasn't. Usually it is.
Okay. Well,
The
their
Belgian
champs
national
kit
champs
is.
kit.
No, but their champs kit is, but normally their national team kit isn't. It's normally pretty slop.
No, it's the blue, the ugly blue with the ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's garishly cool.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
fair enough. I'll let you.
All right.
The home team came up with. I mean, what is that? You've got the most iconic flag and anthem in the world, and you've mucked around with it and created some sloppy, like gradienty, liney thing. Like even Alaphilippe couldn't make this thing look good. So France, absolute fail. USA, again, what? Like iconic jersey, iconic flag, and you've just come up with a white jersey that says USA on it. Like abysmal, very, very disappointing. Look, playing it safe, the Netherlands, I don't mind this. I want my country's jerseys to just be massive blocks of, especially when you've got iconic colours like the orange of the Netherlands. Perfect, brilliant, great. The gold of Australia, fantastic. I'm not normally a massive fan of the Australian kit, but I just think given the competition, it was pretty good. Italy, blue, Azzurri, just keep churning that out till the day I die. You'll always win as far as I'm concerned. And the Team GB one, I didn't hate it, like that dark navy kind of with like a textured thing on it. I kind of like the fact that it's Adidas as well. That kind of gets me a little excited. So didn't mind that. Shout outs to the few teams that I did notice that didn't just go for the flag and still made it work, I reckon. So Serbia's was super cool, actually. Big fan of that. It was like this white jersey with these like black geometric patterns all over it. It was kind of cool. And the Irish one, which I really liked, but supposedly in Ireland it was kind of slammed because it wasn't Irish. And I kind of get that because it had a lot of navy blue in it. But ultimately I think it actually kind of looked pretty good, and you know, Ben Healy out in front on it with his Super 6 and his POC helmet, I reckon kind of made it look all right. So that was Ben Healy in the Ireland kit. One other quick thing. So do you think that in the road race everyone in the team should get the medal?
No.
Okay, fine.
Hell no.
All right. But so that you would say then that it's a real honor not a real honor, a massive honor for the people selected to represent their country to wear their national jersey at the Olympics. That's the honor for them is to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
This is my issue with, I know it's legislated, they have to do it, but this is my issue with people wearing the national kits at the Fondo World Champs things. Sorry, it's just that's what it is.
Okay, right.
Because like as an elite cyclist who makes it to be selected for the Olympic Games to represent their country, and they don't win, or they're just doing a team role, like to represent their country is the honor of wearing their jersey. To me, that's the height of that achievement. I think that needs to be held up and therefore not be muddied by allowing Chris Miller to do something similar. I don't know. That's just I see every time I see.
Do you think teammates of the same team should get a medal?
No, I don't. But because it's a conversation that I actually had this with mum and dad, where they're like, oh, like it's kind of not fair that the other Belgian guys who are working for him don't get anything out of this. And I'm like, well, yeah, they really don't. Like Remco gets the big pay bonus. Remco gets the gold medal. You know, what's in it for them, really, other than national pride? And my only thing was that, well, what's in it for them is that they're representing their country and they get to wear their jersey. So that's kind of
well,
where
the problem
I
is
come from.
Remco could win without them. It's not like rowing where you in an 8, you can't do it with 7. So it's an equal thing, whereas it gets a bit murky because and the teams in the Olympics in the cycling don't have the same number of teammates as well. So are you giving away? What if someone from Germany wins and there's 2 riders, or someone from Denmark wins and there's 8, for example? Like,
I'm not for what I suggested. I'm just using it as an example, but I don't think that's an excuse because, like, for the example for the relays specifically in the swimming. So if you use two swimmers in the heats and your team goes on to win a medal, those heat swimmers get a medal as well. They're not presented on the dais, but they do get a medal. But if a team, so some teams might give out 6 gold medals, like we did in the 4x100 women's freestyle. 6 ladies got medals, whereas I think it was Canada who were third, didn't use 2 extra swimmers, so they just had 4 medals given out. So I don't think that's a particular discrepancy. I will finally say about this that I do think the importance of the Olympic road race, I don't know about you, but it seems like it's tripled in importance in like no time. Okay, so Carapaz won in Tokyo, and
I don't think it's tripled in importance.
Pogacar
didn't go.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not confused, but I'm surprised with what the level of reverence. Maybe it's just Remco's performance that we're amazed about, but I'm surprised by the actual reverence that it seems to have been given Greg Van Avermaet wins, and it's like, oh, all right, Greg won, cool. Like, it doesn't seem to be the same for them. I don't know. Do you watch any of the triathlon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually did. Yeah.
What is wrong with triathletes on bikes?
Well, they don't have sleeves and they don't have socks. Literally.
Is that what it is?
100%. I guarantee that they have long sleeve kit and longer socks. They'd be dialed in.
No, it's more than that. I know this is like cliche lowest hanging fruits. Oh, it's road cyclists giving out about triathletes. But they do look shit. I'm sorry. There's something wrong with their bike setups. They all look like they've got the worse than me. They're way too far over the bottom bracket, and they're way too over at the front of their front wheels. And then none of them have got any control. I don't know if you watched any of I think it was the women's race. Half the field crashed every corner. It was because all your weight is miles over the front of your bike. It's just bizarre setups I'll bring up a couple of pictures of it. I don't know what's going on with it. So maybe it's a thing. Maybe you are set up that way as a triathlete because it's, I don't know.
I'm convinced it's just the kit. I'm convinced that with some good map kit, you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Couple other quick ones I wanted to note. Can you talk about the Team GB men's pair rowing?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain this to me?
The problem is you can't show any footage of it because
I can show a picture. There's a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
With like 5 seconds to go in the race, the stroke seat of the GB pair looks to the side of the course because that's where the course markers are, so he knows how far he's got to go. Even though he's only got 5 strokes to go, looks to the side. That then makes him basically mess up his stroke, and he pulls his oar out and flicks the water everywhere. That then totally interrupts the run of the boat, kills the boat speed. And it's not like cycling where you could, at that stage, probably just freewheel it in. If you're in a boat and you stop rowing, obviously you got your aero drag, you got your hydro drag. It's a lot more than aero drag. So that boat speed gets cut in half, and the Czech pair or the Sinkovic brothers.
Yeah, it's Croatians, I think.
Croatians, sorry.
Yeah.
Just steamroll past them and get them by a bee's dick on the line because he cooked one stroke because he looked out of the boat and missed. That's the gold medal gone. They would have won it.
So is that mistake, is that like a real Hubbard mistake, like if you're on a bike and you turn to your right and you like start steering to the right and you like take out 7 people? Or is it just you overcooked the corner a bit, like he was right on the rivet, like a pro mistake, like, or is it?
It's a proper Hubbard move.
Oh, okay.
These guys should be so well drilled that doesn't, even looking to the side, you should be able to keep your oar clean in the water. It's kind of like what would be the equivalent in a road race? It's not even like clashing front wheels. It's more Hubbard than that. It's almost like I pulled my foot out in the sprint, kind of like that. Except that can maybe be but even pulling your foot out's an accident. This was not really an accident. It's just an unforced error. Yeah. I can't, for him, for his pair mate, who is cost him a gold medal, I don't know how you mend that relationship. That's rough. He would be just replaying that video for the rest of his life. Just brutal. Other thing as well, in the sprinting in the athletics, in the heats of the 100 meters, the GB sprinter accidentally false starts by like nothing. Home. See you later. No second chance. No repechage. Just you cooked it. You're nervous and you're a bit jumpy, and now all your training's pointless and you're going home. Yeah. What?
There was a girl in the 400 last night as well. And you're like, what are you false starting a 400 for? Yeah, you're right. You don't, that's it. There goes your 4 years.
So they used to give you one chance, but then people were abusing the system to cook everyone up. So they got rid of that, which I think is fair. But there should be a safety net. Where's the repechage? Like in the rowing, if you don't qualify top 3 in your heat, you go to the repechage, and the 1 or 2 from the rep go through, so people get a second chance. Like, how is that? I know some of the longer distance events in the athletics have the repechage system now. I think that's. I almost felt sick. Like, this guy's just there, like what? Like trying to argue it, and they're like, no, well, you false started, and there's no safety net, so you got to go home. He's like,
absolutely
can't
brutal.
Believe it.
And poor old Christian didn't have a great day. Did you know? I noticed this in the comments. People seem to pick out they thought that we were suggesting he was going to win the Tour de France, which I kind of felt was funny.
Well, he said he wanted to get a jersey.
Well, that we were like, we thought he could, or we thought he would. Like, they were laughing at us saying, I can't believe these guys think this guy can win.
Screw ya, he can win. Fuck it.
Which, I mean, I'm all on board the story.
He's got some weight to lose. That's the first thing.
And by the looks of his current form in that triathlon, I'm not sure he's going to be right up for it. But yeah,
sign up Yee or Lee or whoever it was.
He was the guy
on the program.
Definitely. On board for the journey. I think it's don't like his chances.
Oh, everyone, because he's sponsored by Giant and Cadex, is going to Jayco apparently, which also kind of makes sense with that sports science thing, because I feel like Jayco don't have like a sports science philosophy. At least that's apparent public. Like the other ones kind of have there's a system, there's a protocol. Jayco kind of just seem to, I don't know what they do.
Ben O'Connor, 2-year deal. Jayco, thoughts?
Oh, cool. Aussie. Nice. And he wasn't on. He's not coming from a. He's not like a kind of a support structure downgrade.
Like for like, I'd suggest. Like that decathlon, I reckon that TT setup wasn't too bad. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do with it. But does mean he's not in next year's Netflix, which is probably a good thing for Ben. It's just
No, so you know why he moved back is because he wants to be on an Australian team, Perth Nationals. Is it Perth local?